However, right now, we have incredible unity, and we need to focus on that, and we need to amplify that. We need to not
Ride the wave.
continue, ride the wave, and not continue to sow the seeds of contempt. Oh, you're this, and therefore, no. Right now, we have incredible unity.
Israel is at war, and this is not just any war. This is the war of all wars. This is history repeating itself. This is Iran wanting us gone, and we all know what happens to Iranians who want to destroy the Jewish people. Haman became a cookie. We are once again being hunted, targeted, and hated in our own land. And what do? We come home. We come home to defend our country. We come home to survive and fight for all of humanity. We will rebuild and we will rise from the ashes. Good morning from Israel on the Moral Edge. I'm here with Brian Spivak from Barzil Media. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. Chanale, good to be here.
Good to be here too. I was up early this morning. I got my run in before Iran tried to kill me. And here we are. We are talking about the good, the bad, and the amazing that's coming out of Israel during this time.
Yeah, definitely the amazing. I think there's a lot of positive things that have come from this latest attack from Iran. We're reminded of just so much unity and so much positivity from like what seems like just craziness and insanity that is happening to us.
Yeah, so let's get into that because it's easy. I think people know that Israelis, we're one big family. We play Jewish geography wherever we go. Every single cab I get into, I tell the driver my whole life story. So the fact that we're united, for me, that's almost a given. But let's talk about what it's actually like to live here as Anglos, as Americans, in the middle of an existential crisis. Israel is at a stage 4 security level. And
is that like orange or red in the U.S.?
It is fluorescent pink.
Oh, okay, got
it. It is fluorescent blue, like the Israeli, like your shirt. No, but in all seriousness, schools are closed. Yeah. Public transportation is not available, and the whole country has basically stopped, and it was put on hold, which is always fun when your kids are home from school for a week straight. But in reality, let's tell people what's actually happening here. Describe, Brian, what it's like to be in a bomb shelter at 3 a.m. because the Iranian mullahs are shooting off missiles the sizes of buses full of tons of ammunition and gunpowder and explosives in our direction.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of crazy. I mean, we've been going through this war for the last year and a half plus, and we've had rockets coming from all different directions. We've survived ballistic missiles coming from Iran in the past. This is taking it to a whole new level, and we've seen casualties now. We are seeing the extent of the damage that comes from an Iranian missile landing in the heart of a city, and it scares the hell out of us. That's for sure. Yeah. What's been your perspective?
At this point, I'm a survivor. I survived 9/11, I survived COVID, I survived October 7th, and now I'm surviving the Iranians trying to kill me and my children. And I'm not being, I'm not being extra.
It's not hyperbolic. Yeah.
No, exactly, because they're shooting missiles indiscriminately into the land of Israel where 10 million people live, Jews and Christians and tourists and men and women and children and people just trying to live their lives that have no interest in interfering with the Iranians or their issues. The concept that maybe Israel started this, we have a few fanatic extreme people who think that is so ridiculous. But at the end of the day, we are smashing Iran, watching the most miraculous victory over a country that's 93 times bigger than what we have now. But at the same time, because we're such a small country, we're feeling the pain. We're feeling the pinch. And every time the rockets go off, you think about everyone in the country that's running for their shelters. It's not like, someone in across the country, across America. These are our friends and neighbors that are being targeted.
Oh, yeah. And I see it now every day. So bomb shelter that I used to go to was across the street. I don't have one in my apartment. I don't have one even in my building. I would go across the street. Now, the one that I was going to was across the street, but it was like kind of down a few steps, and it wasn't a proper secure bomb shelter. So now that the Iranian ballistic missiles are raining down, you saw the damage. I'm taking any chances. Luckily, thank God, thank Hashem, we have the home front command, who have updated their protocols that allow us to gain extra time so we know. So I'm now walking about, it's a 3-minute walk. And I walk, at a brisk pace.
Okay.
Yeah. I walk at a brisk pace to a public bomb shelter that has like probably around 100 to 150 people inside of
Okay,
this
so
bomb
that
shelter.
in itself you could write a book about. Just bomb shelters in the middle of the night with Israelis and their grandmothers and their dogs and their children and that whole
From
experience.
all walks of life, and you have people like bringing pillows, you have people bringing chairs, you have people bringing brownies.
It's crazy because it's so thrilling, but it's also terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying. And I was laughing because I recalled a news segment where an Israeli gets in front of the camera and he has shrapnel on his face and he just survived a missile attack. And he says, "Thank God I was in the bathroom making a kaki." I was like, now in Israel that word is just commonplace,
Yeah.
But if you're a kid watching, don't use that word in school.
Yeah.
But the point is, Israelis they survive this with humor and with grace and with love for one another. Otherwise, how could we do this? How could we do this? Do people understand the damage that has been inflicted on Israel in the last week? I mean, share a little bit about what we're seeing on social media.
We actually had direct hits. I had a direct hit that was a 5-minute walk from my apartment, the one that was right next to the Ministry of Defense.
You felt it in the shelter?
I actually wasn't there. I was I was further away. But yeah, we're feeling the explosions all around us. There was the direct hit that was, I think it was now like 3 days ago, in the heart and center, in the soul of Tel Aviv. This is where all of our coffee shops are. This is where all of my friends live. I used to live there for 5 years. I was living in this area. The center of Tel Aviv got hit. And I went to go help, like actually clean out apartments and help my friends. And it's utter destruction. I walked through. There's no
time to process it even.
There's no time to process it.
No.
But there's literally a whole, like, the windows are completely shattered out on one side and on the other. There's no border to her apartment anymore. The destruction
And there
is
has
devastating.
been loss of life, and Israel is mourning, and there's been funerals. And by the way, we're still at war with Hamas. My soldier friends that I work with, we're throwing another barbecue next week. By the way, if you want to help Israel, just send money. If you can't get a ticket, just send the money you were going to spend on your ticket, and we'll use it to help our soldiers and to help our hostage families. We're still in the middle of an active war with Hamas. This is just like a summer surprise, right? Our soldiers in Gaza, 3 soldiers were killed last week. One of them I heard suffered, I can't even describe what happened to him, but the explosions that are maiming and just decimating families. And on top of it, we're living in a reality where we have to explain to our children that people who have nothing to do with us just think it's completely appropriate to send missiles that are taking out neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we're a nation of believers. So everything has another dimension. Now, you're in Tel Aviv, I'm in Beit Shemesh. Different vibes, different communities, different, I would even say faiths. I
like to challenge you on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Go ahead.
listen, I went to a kumsitz,
Yeah.
and it was with the Tel Aviv Yafo crowd, secular,
Okay.
and they were singing all the Jewish songs, but they kept like turning up to the sky and saying, "Turn up to the sky," and I'm like, no, it's God in the sky. Do you know what I mean? So they have a different way of connecting.
Yeah, for sure.
A different way of connecting.
Yeah.
So being that we're all hoping, and being that people are turning to God, obviously in these scary times, what have you seen that has reinforced your faith as a Jew, an American, an Anglo living in Israel during one of the, I would say, scariest times in the history of our country?
I want to reinforce that point because we have been living through some crazy times during this war. I would say, except for October 7th, which caught us completely by surprise. We've had the most devastating civilian deaths since October 7th has happened this past week. And that's really scary. The fact that we know that that can happen at any moment, I think fills a lot of Israelis with this sense of fear. And it's very, very scary. But there's so much positive that is coming out of this. There's so much resilience. There's so much light. What's crazy is that Friday night, so this was before Iran launched any attack
This past Friday night.
this past Friday night.
It was a siren right after Shabbat came in.
Yes, exactly. So before any siren, we were under the protocol that we need to be prepared for an attack, and therefore shuls were canceled and gatherings were forbidden, and so some of the shuls got permission to do a Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat in the bunker
That's what it
that's the
was.
video that I sent you. Yeah.
Yes.
That was in the bottom of Dizengoff Center. There is, underneath the parking lot, there is a bomb shelter, and it's a massive bomb shelter. And it's got bathrooms, it's got like the massive doors to be closed off. And we did the most beautiful Kabbalat Shabbat. It was unbelievable. There were probably about 150 to 200 people there.
Men, women, children.
Men, women, children, religious, not
And
religious.
singing to Hashem, praising God. Thank you to the God of Israel. You protect us. The Shabbat protects us. And there's no, we're not shrinking. We're not saying, how could God let this happen to us? This is a sign that he hates us.
Yeah.
No. We are, look at the news anchor that got on the air, the secular news anchor, put on a kippah
Oh, yeah.
and made a bracha, was it Hagomel or Shachianu? Thanking God, the God of Israel, because we are a nation of believers, for protecting its citizens. Because think about it, had the army, our incredible Air Force, the men and women of the IDF, who flew 2,800 kilometers away, took over Iran's airspace, didn't lose one pilot, didn't lose one airplane, refueled in the air, stopped to get an iced coffee, and completely destroyed, it was 1/3 of Iran's capabilities, missile capabilities, within the first 24 hours of this war. It's because of that what we saw in Bat Yam is not, God forbid, here in Beit Shemesh. So we are literally, first of all, it's a revealed miracle because, we've all seen the picture that really it's God's hand, that it's the Iron Dome, right? And it's a tremendous, tremendous amount of gratitude to the IDF who, led by Bibi Netanyahu, thanks to their strength and their gumption, went in and did what needed to be done so that we could be sitting here today.
Yeah, 100%. And I spoke to a friend of mine who's in military and Air Force intelligence, and he said to me, he's like, the Air Force, the units that are supporting the Air Force are actually kind of bored. Like, why? Like, we have this crazy operation.
Okay.
Why are they bored? Because they planned for every contingency. And
they got it
just
done.
had so
The
much
first 20
success.
guys went in and
so
took
much
care of it.
success that it was better than anyone could possibly ever imagine. And everyone's saying it's an absolute miracle that everything not only went to plan, but better. And it just shows the hand of God in every aspect of what's been happening since attack began. And it's incredible to see.
But what do we do with the fact that we are still at war? We still have hostages. I know that you were very involved with the hostage community. I'm sure you still are on some level. At the end of the day, it's getting hotter here every day. The summer, people's moods, tempers flare up. I always say it that the remedy for peace in the Middle East is air conditioning across all the countries. But we're now at this time where things are heated up and getting worse, and we don't have our hostages home, and our soldiers are getting killed. So how do we maintain our faith in these challenging times? Because it's easy to be on a high today. I ran as fast as I can this morning, and there were rockets overhead, and I could be on a high that, look at me, I'm here, and despite the mullahs, I got my exercise in. But tomorrow and tonight, or in a few hours from now, we could be back in the shelter, and despite their diminished capabilities, their nuclear facilities are still active underground. We have America getting involved, and Trump, I believe, is a close friend with Bibi. So for me, that's bring on American fighter jets, no problem. But we're not out of the thick of the woods. So what do you want to say to people watching, first of all, abroad, as what they can do to help, and what they should be feeling and thinking? Besides for you should have made Aliyah and you didn't. And then we'll get into what we can do as Israelis to keep
I have a lot
supporting.
I have a lot to say on the latter part, but
The
let's start with what people can do from abroad. I think donating to organizations, donating to charity, spend your money here, and not only
link
that,
is in the show notes.
not only that, spend money on actual companies and brands. Like, don't buy your jewelry from some Joe Schmo
From
down the
Shane.
street. Like, yeah, buy clothes, buy merchandise, buy Israeli products.
Buy Israel charm bracelets.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll put links in the show notes, but this is very critical. This is everything that Barzell Media stands for, is connecting commerce and cause and supporting Israel by ensuring that people are investing in all of our businesses. So that's really, really
Yeah, we
critical.
need to live.
We have to. We can't, and we can't rely on charity. Definitely donate.
Yeah.
But we don't want to rely just on charity.
Right.
So that's super critical, and that's the success of Israel, the startup nation, is that we're not just donate money to cacao.
No,
It's investing in
Yes.
the real commercial startup
And
environment.
it pays back in dividends because
It pays back
yeah.
tremendously.
Even despite the war, I think
Yeah.
Israel's economy is still somehow. Sometimes
Yeah.
I read the news, I'm like, we have an economy.
Yeah.
There's still money left, but
Yeah.
you know what? Israelis, they just like
Yeah.
you put them in the fire, and they just they become forged
Yeah.
stronger.
So, and I want to share an interesting perspective. My feeling is that, as crazy as it might sound, being here feels so much safer. Even right after
Safer than
October 7th.
California. More safer.
Safer, definitely safer than California right now. That's for
Being
sure.
anywhere is safer than California.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But there's a sense of, okay, yeah, we're being attacked, but honestly, this is my own personal feeling. I personally don't have fear. I don't. I don't know if it's because I believe in God. I don't know if it's because I just don't think that having fear is necessarily like helpful for me. That's me personally. Again, I know a lot of Israelis are actually feeling really, really scared.
And they're
But when I
entitled
go
to that.
back to America, I feel like I have to like look over my shoulder, and I'm like, there's a sense of like uneasiness. You don't know what's really gonna happen. You don't feel like God is really there protecting us. But Hashem, God really has his hand protecting Israel and the Jewish people right now. And we really feel it every single day. And not only that, we feel a sense of like unity. Like the fact that we're getting attacked and we're getting stronger is incredible. It's an
Because
unbelievable
usually, if
feeling.
you think about, let's say in the case of marriages, when something happens that is extremely overwhelming, only the best of marriages stand that test of time, stand that challenge. So you think, okay, yeah, we're a squabbling couple here, but when we're put under the pressure, the relationship has actually become better.
That's a great analogy.
It's a great analogy.
And living in
yeah.
living in Israel is that marriage. It's the marriage between
And we're
the
married
Jew-
to the land.
And we're 100%.
And we're married to the
And
land.
that's why we feel we can survive anything. And nothing, no attack, no external, terrorism is going to bring us down because we're married to the land.
What are you going to say to the mother who has a son in Gaza? What are you going to say to the parents who lost their children who are still in Gaza? We know that we have an unprecedented amount of reserves and Israeli soldiers now called up. I'm getting more requests than ever for barbecue, so that's how I know that people are hungry on bases. And yeah, and we could sit here in the air condition and for the most part, we don't have. I don't. My extended family is in America, and they're worried about me, but I'm not worried about them.
Yeah.
So while I'm comfortable, I feel like there are a lot of issues still here, bubbling under the surface. Resentment towards the government, resentment towards even Hashem. For people who have lost, we can't judge them, and we're gonna have to heal.
Yeah.
We're going to have to heal. We're not out of the neck of the woods. I think that we're thriving right now on the reality that we're winning this war, but let's not forget the impact, the psychological, emotional, spiritual, mental impact that this is having on our civilians. Like, what does that mean for us as a nation?
I still think that, the soldiers and their families and what they're facing and that challenging nature of going into war and not knowing how it's going to come out on the other side is incredibly challenging. However, and of course, same thing with the hostages and their families. However, right now, we have incredible unity, and we need to focus on that, and we need to amplify that. We need to not
Ride the wave.
ride the wave and not continue to sow the seeds of contempt. Oh, you're this and therefore, no. Right now, we have incredible unity. Everyone in the government is supporting Bibi's decision.
Yes.
That's a miracle.
Yeah, that is a
We're,
miracle in
we're
and of
all
itself.
agreeing on
We're
this.
halfway there.
We haven't had this type of, I mean, I don't even want to say after October
National
7th,
pride.
but after October 7th, we had unity, but we actually had resentment towards the government because they failed us,
Yes.
and they did. There's no denying
Now
that.
we're
But
cheering
now
for
we're
the
like,
bleachers.
we got the government making the right decisions, and we have unity. We need to ride that wave
Right.
and recognize what we haven't had in a really, really long time. And let's continue that. Let's not find reasons to be like, yeah, but I disagree with this. What we tend to forget, and this is with all aspects of like on the political spectrum, is that unless you are the crazy, crazy extreme, which I think most people fall in the middle, is that we agree generally on 80 to 90% of the main
Which
topics.
is communication issues.
We have massive communication issues. And you know what? You know who's doing that? Iran, Russia, the CCP. They're trying to
They're
actually
putting sticks in
sow
our wheels,
differences
yeah.
between us. That
Good
is their
point.
goal. And so we're taking a massive step by trying to take down the Iranian regime. And we're doing the world a massive, massive favor. And I think that's going to create, hopefully, some more unity. And hopefully we'll get rid of this sowing the seeds of trying to tear Western societies apart, because that's what they've been doing. And that's why there's protests on college campuses. That's why you have people cheering for terrorists. It's because they've been fueling that. And now we're actually getting rid of some of those elements that are really just tearing Western societies apart.
So do you think that we're going to have another Purim soon? And if so, what are we calling it?
Well, we have like Pesach Sheni.
I
We
think
have a second Passover, so maybe like
we're
Purim Sheni?
Purim Sheni,
Yeah.
and
Could
or
be.
drop your opinions in the
Yeah,
comments.
guys, what do you think it should be called?
Yeah, we definitely need a celebration after this. Like there's no shortage of holidays in this country.
Yeah.
We'll take on another one quite happily.
Mm.
In the meantime, I would just have to say that every day is a blessing. We are unfortunately going through a crisis, and we're not out of the woods just yet. It is a time for prayer and to give extra charity and to increase in acts of goodness and kindness. And then, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe always said, Israel is the safest place. Hinei lo yonum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. He doesn't sleep nor slumber. He guards over Israel day in and day out.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, we look towards heaven and we beseech from God that He should protect us and remind the nations of the world that although we are small, we are mighty because God of Israel is behind us and victory is ours. And don't mess with Israel, and don't mess with the IDF, and don't mess with Chanale and Brian, because we are here fighting the good fight, riding this crazy tornado right now. But we'll be okay.
We're going to be okay.
We're gonna be great. We're gonna be more than okay.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think one last thing I just want to add is I've been really interested in the name of this operation, right? So people have been
Operation is it
Rising Lion, yeah. So I heard something fascinating recently, which is I think that there's a lot of different opinions. Rising Lion, I think the old Iranian flag has like a lion, so it's try to rise, elevate that lion back to where it should be. That's one perspective. Another one I heard or thought about was the lion right before it pounces on its prey. It gets very, very low. It tries to seem like it's actually lying down and like,
Not a threat.
I'm actually not a threat, right? What did we do right before this attack? We made it seem like there was daylight between Bibi and Trump. Bibi was like sick. His son was gonna have a wedding, right? All this stuff. The government was gonna collapse.
Everyone was
All
on their
of these
last-
things
yeah.
were designed to show deception and show weakness. And that is the low,
Crouching.
that is the crouching of the lion right before he pounces.
So don't underestimate Israel. And never leave the country. To all my friends stuck in Thailand who decided to go on vacation, just don't leave Israel. And then you'll never have to go through Cyprus on a boat to get
Yeah.
back here.
Unless you're a Taglid, and then you're actually really enjoying the fact that
They were
you're
on a
getting-
cruise?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Cruise,
They
yeah.
went on a cruise?
No, basically, in order for them to get back from Israel to the States.
This is a youth group that was visiting.
Yeah, Tagli, Birthright.
Right.
And they basically set up a cruise ship for 1,500
I
Taglit
love that because
students.
you know that Americans are like, my kid has to come back from Israel. I don't care if you have to rent a ship to do it.
Yeah.
We are innovative, we are creative, and you're going to see and hear so much more out of the country of Israel, the land of Israel. So stay tuned, subscribe to our show, subscribe to Moral Edge, and follow the best creators and podcast hosts and influencers. Follow our pages, My Beautiful Land of Israel on Instagram, Barzell Media, and send us cash so we can so we can win this war.
Yalla.
All right. Good
Awesome.
talk, Ryan.
Good talk.